Remember, Patreon $10 tier if you want to get critiqued. Anyway, let's get into it. Your first cross solution was pretty good besides one cube rotation. So here, red and green, you inserted them together, but first move blue over so that it can be influenced by orange. So you move these in, and then move orange, and then lastly blue is here. You should do D2F, but instead you rotated and did D2L. Anytime the cross has a cube rotation, there's probably a way to eliminate it. Next, you had this pair, and just showing what you did here, as you can see, you did a regrip before this began. And then the way you inserted it had a regrip as well. In F2L, there are 3 types of regrips, and one is when it's not necessary. So a regrip is just anytime you begin the algorithm not with both thumbs on front. And for this one, if you just do this with the basic finger tricks, you can still do it with thumbs on front, which is why the regrip was unnecessary. And when you insert it, again, this was an unnecessary regrip, as you can start with thumbs on front and the same finger tricks. Next, you did this pair, and as you can see, you regripped for it. This is the second type of regrip, where it feels necessary. And this happens when you're not choosing the right finger tricks to use here. So for this example, when you lift this up, your right thumb's on top, you either need to do a pinch turn with your index finger like this, or use your other hand to push over here. As for which type you pick, it's up to you. I actually saw you use this in part of your second solve, which means I know you know how to do it, so make sure you use it here. So here we would pair this up like this, and then the same finger trick used over here to insert it. And this is a bit more advanced, but I just want to note this specific pair can be inserted without a rotation, and that is by doing reverse sledgehammer or hedge here, and that pairs them up. Then you can insert into the back. Next, you went for this pair when this one was set up on top. Now, if you have 2 pieces that are slotted, usually something better is already on top, so just keep that in mind. So when you're doing anything involving a back slot, there is a chance that regripping is actually the best option. So it's usually any back slot algorithm that involves doing a U move with the hand that is out of place. So here, if you'd prefer it, I'd say that regrip is fine, but there still are back slot unnecessary regrips as I showed earlier, so make sure you know for your back slot cases which ones need and don't need a regrip. And for those of you watching, if it's your first time hearing about all this finger trick stuff, then you can check out this video here that shows you all the finger tricks you need to know. You don't have to learn them all at once, but it helps to know what they are. All right, then you paired up these 2, and then you had these 2. Next is 2-look OLO. Again, here you can eliminate regrips. You did a few regrips for this algorithm, but one way you can do it without many is like this. Next, we have this G-perm, and you did this one lefty, starting with L2. Now, anytime there is a good right-handed algorithm, I recommend learning all right-handed instead of mirroring between the 2. If you're just learning algorithms, it's faster to learn partly right and partly left because it's less information. So I'm going to say this is fine for now, but as you move forward, you want to know a good right-handed algorithm, such as this. In this solve, all the white pieces were on top, and what you did was insert blue and red together. Now, before inserting blue, you notice that would put green in a weird spot, so you moved that out, solved blue, and then inserted green into the back with B2, and then inserted orange over here. So in this situation, when there's nothing already in the bottom, then what you can do in the beginning is just insert 1, and that affects nothing else. So we're going to insert green and just put it in its solved location, and then doing the rest of the cross solution gets so much better. So inserting red and blue, and then inserting orange. You started with the red and green F12 pair, and you separated them, and then solved it as a regular F12 pair like that. Make sure you know this special case, and that's by putting them here, and then doing R prime U2 R, and that pairs them up. Next, you did this pair, and then this pair. So very good that you inserted it into the back here. That way it's easy to see what you have next. And here you did a double rotation to solve this last one, kind of like in the beginner method. So anytime you have to rotate to do the beginner method way, then instead you can just hold this edge of the back and do sledgehammer. And then that pairs them up. All right, and then OLO, and here is where you did that finger trick that I talked about earlier. And then for PLL, just one thing. Here for the F prime on the third move for F prime, you did a regrip down and regrip back up. Instead, if you use your right thumb, there's no regrip and it flows much more smoothly. Now, also, I want to say that regrips are especially important for you, not just because I think you should learn it by now, but because your turning is actually really good when you know how to do the algorithm very smoothly. So it seems like for the second half of the F-perm, you have it planned out very well, so you do it really well. But for a lot of your F2L algorithms, it's not so optimized, and if you make that optimization, it can help you out a ton. Crosses like these are why I think it's a really good idea to at least be white and yellow color neutral. But in this case, what you can do is if you set up red to where it goes and just put blue underneath here, so just like 2 setup moves, then this becomes a much better cross. So here you can insert green, align it, and then now orange, blue, and red are all set up. So first you did this F12 pair, and then this one, which you did by separating them first and then doing this, which is fine. Next, you did these two by moving them like this and then taking it out. Instead, what's better is by moving it to the back and then doing sledgehammer, and that pairs it up and requires no rotations. Next, you did this, and remember with the solved edge, you will never have to rotate, so if you do, there's probably something better you can do. So here you did U2 and then inserted them like this, pair them up and insert. Instead, you can move the corner over here and just move the edge behind it like that, and that pairs them up as well. And then 2 look OLL. And now for Y-perm, again, talking about F prime moves. So we're gonna get into about halfway through. Here you can do F prime with your left index finger without doing a regrip like that. You can just do it like this. Now this works best when your right hand happens to already be in a thumb to the bottom position. That way, when you do this, you won't accidentally move the S slice. All right, then going through the rest of the algorithm, at the end, you can use your thumb move here, and then that makes it no regrip. For this cross, your solution wasn't bad, but it could have been better. So here you align blue, and you notice that green was pretty much already going to be set up, so you inserted orange and green, and then did D2 and inserted green and blue. So green like that, and blue, really good job here. You took out this pair, so you can use it as your first pair. So the better solution here is noticing that blue actually, if you just insert that, that influences orange and red to go to their opposite spots. And when you insert these, it moves green over. So that would be a much shorter cross solution, and the pair is still right here. For your next pair, you did these two by splitting it up first, and as I said earlier, you should solve them by putting them here and doing R, U2, R prime, and that pairs them up. So next, everything is pretty much over here, and I did notice you have this habit of anytime you finish a pair, you look to the back to get a full view of the cube. Now, in terms of pausing time, doing this is as bad as doing this, just waiting. So this is really a habit you should get rid of, and you don't see top cubers doing this. So what you should do instead, if you completely don't know what to do, is do U moves until you find something. And obviously we're not going to find everything here because we only have a mismatched pair on top. So instead, since we know this side is solved, you use deduction to figure out what these are. Now, obviously the top is all yellow here, but if you didn't know, you could do U moves to look around there. And once you know that, then this is the only remaining edge that could actually go with this corner. And of course, this is the only corner that could go with this edge. This, of course, is very difficult, but it is something you should start thinking about. Instead of thinking that pieces can be anywhere, make sure you know exactly where they can be. So usually if you find a corner first, you know the edge can be anywhere on top. In this case, obviously not any of these or this one. Then it has to be only one of these two. You don't need to do a whole look at the back. This orange is enough to tell you that it goes with this one. All right, then to solve this pair, what you did is by taking it out like this, which is not the best way. Instead, there's a way that cancels more moves, and that's if you just take it out like this. And that immediately goes into inserting. So when you're inserting this, you can quite easily see this one over here, but you still did a look at the back here, which means it's a bad habit, and sometimes you're not actually looking for pieces when you do it. Next, for solving this pair, you did a rotation, and this is fine. If you think you need a rotation, instead there is a way over here that involves just inserting the corner, and then you can solve this case. So when you know the finger tricks well, your turning is really great, but just make sure that you don't have unnecessary regrips in your F12, as that really hinders your turn speed. So for something like this, make sure you keep your thumbs on front and don't do a regrip like that. And when you have to insert a pair, make sure you can do either the pinch turn to insert, or you can do this turn, and that eliminates the regrip. And in PLL, make sure you optimize your F prime moves. So in general, you should not regrip your left hand during the last layer. There are special cases, but you usually shouldn't. And if we're looking at Y perm, that F prime midway through here, you should do it without a regrip, just like this, because your right hand is holding the S slice. And for the one at the very end, So you could do it like this and have your left pinky underneath to hold the S slice, or what a lot of people do is just right thumb instead. And lastly, during F12, find ways to avoid looking at the back like this, whether that's by doing more U moves in between pairs or by deducing what must be at the back. Alright, so if you're curious about finger tricks, make sure you check out this video on the end screen as it shows you everything you'll have to know. Again, don't try and learn it all at once, but just keep some of these things in mind and pick up some of the more important ones first. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.